All right, back with you here on the first team. Hartsock in for McElroy here on this Monday morning. Hortowitz with you here on ESPNU Radio. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Not a ton in terms of some of the weekends we have seen in the past with news around college football, but there's some, and some involving recruiting and some other things going on in the state of Oklahoma and the Big 12. And for that, we turn to RJ Young. You can hear him weekdays on the Animal, 97.1 FM in Tulsa. Also doing a lot with OU 247 with recruiting stuff for Oklahoma and around the nation. RJ, good morning. How are you?
I'm good, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Ben has an idea that recruiting, in order to make things more competitive around the country, that schools should have to be limited to how many 4 and 5 stars they're allowed to recruit. What do you think?
I think Ben needs to take that and shove it, because it's about, can you go out and sell these kids? That's what I think, man. If you can stack them, stack them.
Shove it,
Ben. What's your solution for college football parity then? RJ, we were just talking about Oklahoma's won the last 6 Big 12 championships. Clemson continues to own the ACC. Ohio State is stacking up Big 10 titles. How do we eventually, us as a country are going to get tired of the same people winning these conferences?
Well, Ben, first, thank you for giving Oklahoma the 2020 Big 12 championship. That'd be number 6 in a row. But the thing
thank you for the fact check.
Hey, look, I think who is going to pick against Oklahoma this year, right? Even as Texas is a little bit more talented, and I've said this, but Texas has been talented for the last 6 years. Look, to fix your solution, hey, how about a 16-team playoff? How about we put in Appalachian State and give it a go with Alabama? How about we do home and homes in playoffs? How about we decide, now that we're in this numbers crunch, this financial bind of money, that we want to have more games and we want to have more parity, or at least the idea of parity. Because the idea of recruiting, right, is I can sell you on what I can do for you and you can help me. And if Dabo Swinney can do that at Clemson, which is the new money here, then anybody should be able to do it. It's about whether or not you're going to be recognized outside the Power 5 or not at this point. Because I assure you, if you put Houston back into a Power 5 program or Power 5 conference, you're going to see them actually recruit with Oklahoma, Texas, and the like. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that Houston Yates was that good. North Shore just put out one of the best running backs in the country, and their quarterback is committed to go to Auburn. You can have this, right? I think this idea of recruiting around the blue bloods, or what we think of as traditionally powerful places to recruit, is all about the coaches that are there. And those guys are getting paid a lot of money because they're very good at their jobs, right? If you want more parity and you want to scale out this 4 and 5 star recruiting, then how about you invite more teams to national television? How about you invite more teams to have an opportunity to play for national championships? Because in that way, you'll get more exposure. And if you get more exposure, you'll see kids like, for instance, over the weekend, J. Michael Sturdivant plays for Flower Mound Marcus, right? Wide receiver, best wide receiver on that team. Catching passes from Garrett Nussmeier, who is committed to play at LSU, right? That kid goes to Cal. That kid was down at LSU, Oklahoma, and Cal. So if Cal can recruit a 4-star wide receiver out of Flower Mound, Texas, I think that anybody could do it. But the reason that Cal could do it is because they play in a Power 5 conference.
RJ, I got money that says he transfers to SMU in 3 years, because that's, what happens now when guys just transfer back to the state of Texas. RJ Young with us here, OU 247, the RJ Young Show on the Animal there in Tulsa. I didn't groan because I don't want college football playoff expansion. I groaned because the idea that we should just make things bigger because some teams are better than others doesn't seem like the right answer. Like, I think the right answer is more, I like the idea of college football expansion, but I really also understand why people are against it.
It doesn't fix the conference championship thing.
Correct. Like, it doesn't really fix the idea that these teams are just better than everybody else. It just, at least for now, just adds more. Like, I get where you're coming from, and it, like, there are a lot of things that are polarizing in this country, and that's an obvious thing right now. For me, college football playoff expansion is not one of them. I understand why some people love it, and I understand why some people hate it. That one is, like, you can easily see both sides of it.
Cool, Hortowitz. Let's go back to Central Florida claiming a national championship in 2017 because they won the Peach Bowl.
I have a UCF championship shirt. I'm all in.
And now you got 2 national champions. You got 2 national champions.
I don't recognize Alabama.
Stop it, you two.
Okay. Okay. But to finish that point, though, wouldn't you like to see Alabama actually go beat Central Florida and say, cool, now that we put them away, give us the trophy?
Sure.
Yeah.
No, but that's my point. That's why I say I could see both.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a faction that says, one of the things that has always made college football great is that you don't just include mediocrity, or in the conversation of, hey, you don't. So like my argument of college football playoff expansion has always been, let's not make it every conference champion is automatically in. You want to expand? Cool. But make it the best of whatever number. So if it's 6, it better be the best 6. If it's 8, make it the best 8. Don't just say, hey, we've got automatic X, Y, and Z because they're affiliated with some conference that they joined 50 years ago. You know what I mean? Like if you want to make it the best, take it the best. You want to make it more? Make it the best. It doesn't have to be. Now, I realize I say that, and that's not actually going to happen when this expands, and I know it's about to expand at some point, that it's going to include automatic bids for conference champions. But I don't necessarily think that it should. Make it the best. You want 8 teams? Have it be the best 8 teams. Don't have it just be the automatic.
So, Hortowitz, who won the World Series last year?
The Nationals.
Where did they do that from? The wild card? Where they expanded the playoff?
Right.
Okay, so like if you could have that sort of a run in college football and you could have that sort of Cinderella story in this area.
Did. Ohio State won the first college football playoff.
Did you just pick a blue blood to make a point about a Cinderella?
Dude, the Nationals were preseason picked to win the East.
You picked
My
a
point
blue
is,
blood.
your conversations are so different right now. Baseball, you can't have the Nationals.
The Nationals are an expansion team. They're an expansion team. They're the Montreal.
They were the
Right.
Stop it. Just because you move cities doesn't make you the Colorado Avalanche, after moving from Quebec, 3 years later, won the Stanley Cup with Patrick Roy, who was, by the way, the same goalie for the Quebec Nordiques. Doesn't make them an expansion team because they moved cities and changed nicknames. The Washington whatever they're going to be called once they get rid of the racist name that they are in the NFL, we'll call them for now the Washington FedExes, okay, or whatever they're going to be called. They're not an expansion team because they changed names. They just changed names.
But the point that I would make, right, to counter all of this.
The Expos had all the Moises Alou and Pedro Martinez. They weren't expansion. They were just a different city. How did we get to this topic?
We got to this topic by talking about expanding the playoff and what it would mean for recruiting, right? And I contend that if you want to get back to Ben's point of really pushing these 4 and 5 stars out to places like, TCU, where the number 1 running back in the 2020 class decided to enroll after having signed with Georgia and then being released, and that was a wild recruiting affair. He's a Texas Christian. Why can he be at Texas Christian and not say Houston? Because Texas Christian plays at a Power 5 school or a Power 5 conference. And in playing for the Power 5 conference, you're going to be on national television. And if you can get the national television money to spread out, you're going to see recruiting spread out. But guess who doesn't want national television money to spread out? The Blue Bloods.
Maybe he just doesn't like Dana Holgerson. RJ Young with us here on the first team. All right, well, speaking of recruiting, okay, Caleb Williams signs with Oklahoma over the weekend, right? He made his announcement over the weekend. He's top class of 2021 quarterback. He did horns down, which, at this point he can't be fined because, he's not technically a member of the Sooners yet. Should we just assume this is going to be the norm as long as Lincoln Riley is going to be there? That quarterbacks around the country have looked and saw what he has done with transfers and Spencer Rattler, and you assume he's going to be the guy and every quarterback's going to want to go play at Oklahoma?
Well, I mean, it's hard not to, right? The only argument against this would be Austin Kendall, right? The even-numbered quarterbacks that commit to Oklahoma have just had a bad way of it since Lincoln Riley took over because the 2017, 2019, 2021 kids have all been rated a little bit higher and a little bit more talented, right? Tanner Mordecai is supposed to be competing with Spencer Rattler right now, but we've already not only given that to Rattler as a starting job, but Rattler's getting better Heisman odds than Sam Ehlinger at Texas, and he hasn't started a game. So with that in mind, yeah, of course you would expect the smooth succession from Rattler to Williams, but in the middle of there, you got Chandler Morris, which is Chad Morris's kid, coming out of Highland Park, who's a 4-star kid and very decorated. Now, I also think it's interesting that Reilly took time to point out about this quarterback race for 2020. I didn't go into the portal to go get a grad transfer quarterback. That's how good I feel about these guys. Could that be true in 2 years? Because the knock on Reilly is, yo, man, Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield are two dudes that you didn't recruit out of high school. Rattler's going to be his first opportunity to show what he can do with a kid out of high school since East Carolina back with Shane Carden. Now, that guy passed for 4,700 yards at East Carolina, but nobody wants to remember that. So I think that, of course, if you're going to just go chalk, it's going to be Caleb Williams in 2022 when Rattler goes to redshirt sophomore year, wins a Heisman Trophy, wins a national championship, and then, pulls a Joe Burrow or whatever. But right now you have no argument against that, is the point.
What about the fact that Caleb Williams is the latest 5-star that is coming out of the college ranks? I love talking to guys like you that are so deep in the recruiting world. The reality is, what is it that you referenced last week, Hortowitz, the 5-star ratio? The reality is the 5 stars tend to pan out at a higher rate, but there are exceptions to that rule, right? Like the Hunter Johnson who transfers away from Clemson that can't even get the starting job at Northwestern. Tate Martell, his struggles, going down to Miami, and now he's not even playing the quarterback position. How do you, as you're evaluating these guys coming out of high school, do you see anything that gives you any reason for pause out of Caleb Williams? Or do you see any easy to identify markers to say, okay, this guy's got the stars because maybe he's got the physical measurables, but maybe there's something in his makeup that makes you pause?
Not makeup so much as where he played and what schemes he plays in. I think the scheme is a fit, right? I think that Gonzaga College is a great high school football team. It's also playing in a smaller Catholic conference where you're not necessarily traveling the country like IMG or Mater Dei to get the best game in town or coming out of a St. Thomas Aquinas or Booker T or just someone with some name brand recognition. That said, to the point about Hunter Johnson, I think it's as much scheme, fit, and coach as it is anything else. I mean, Northwestern's a bad football team. I can't put all of that on Hunter Johnson as a 5-star quarterback. Even as a quarterback, you're only able to do so much. But if you throw in guys like T. Higgins and Joe Nada and Justin Ross and Amari Rodgers, I think you get a very different outcome. And that's what you're looking at with Oklahoma and Caleb Williams. He's going to be throwing to, think about this. The top 4 all-time recruits for Oklahoma today, according to 247 Sports Composite, are Adrian Peterson, Rhett Bomar, Caleb Williams, and Jaden Hazelwood, which means that Williams might have an opportunity to throw passes to Jaden Hazelwood in 2022, which would be the 3rd and 4th ranked players of all time playing on the same offense at the same time with the guy that everybody believes is one of the best offensive coordinators and play callers of all time in Lincoln Reilly, or at least the last 5 years, right? Let's not make it all time. So I think he made a good pick, but here's the thing. He made a good pick with Brock Vandagriff, right? Vandagriff just reopened his recruitment and committed to Georgia. That was the difference. I think right now we're betting on Lincoln Reilly more than we're betting on Caleb Williams. That said, Caleb Williams is a taller, leaner, faster Russell Wilson, and that dude wins games.
RJ, excuse me, last 2 things here. Start with Lincoln Reilly and his comments, which have been consistent throughout. He said, why are we rushing people back? They didn't come back June 1st, June 8th. They came back July 1st, and they had double-digit positive tests. Lincoln Reilly last week at the end of it said, hey, obviously we want to play in the fall, but spring is totally doable. While others are saying spring is a last resort. He's saying, listen, it is doable. Why do you think, and you're, again, RJ Young with us here, you got your show there in Tulsa. Why do you think Lincoln Reilly has sounded like such a different voice than most college coaches, most college administrators that we have heard on a regular basis throughout the last 2-3 months?
Because he's like you and me. He's young. He understands. He's still got his ear to the ground just a little bit more than most because he grew up in an era of social media. He grew up in an era of reading. And he knows that, hey, look, no matter what we do, we're Oklahoma. Okay, we're going to be okay. We're going to be fine. I think where you're going to see this get tight is at the lower tiers where teams aren't making a lot of money, because that's what we're talking about. If you feel like you have a big enough cushion to really not play football in the fall, there's no reason for you to rush back. If you are actually betting on football each and every year, like so many athletic programs are, you can't see another way rather than to put these kids in harm's way and put their coaches in harm's way and the staff in harm's way. I say that you can do spring football, but again, it's about money. right? It's about, is Trevor Lawrence going to play a spring football season if we know the NFL draft is in April? Are the top crop going to be gone? Is it going to be feasible to play 9 games of conference if you're in the Big 12, right? Or is it going to be able to, you're going to be able to put Missouri State or Tennessee on those games in February? I think that he thinks of it as doable because at this point in his career, what hasn't he been able to do? One. And
Right.
two, you have enough smart people around to make this happen. It's about incentives, right? If the incentive is there for you to have a spring football season, it'll happen. But right now, the incentive is not high enough for the rest of college football to believe you can have a spring football season. And as bad as it is to say, things will have to get much worse for that to be a reality.
Yeah. RJ, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. If you want someone to come yell at you on your show, let me know. I'll be there.
Right on. I appreciate you guys. Thanks.
RJ Young with us here on the First Team. Excuse me. You can catch him on 97.1 FM in Tulsa, the Animal, the RJ Young Show. Really good perspective. More of the First Team next.